Line, a podcast on the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network, where every 2 weeks I will be chatting with ordinary people doing extraordinary things on their path to their own finish line.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to episode 12 of Beyond the Finish Line. I'm super stoked to be on a dozen episodes. This is so rad. Today we have a really cool guest, Simon Hollis. Simon is actually introduced to me by Craig Lewis from Running Tales, and so I've gotten a chance to kind of do a deep dive on Simon. He's done a lot of really rad things. He's co-owner and race director of Go Beyond Challenge. Also a super accomplished ultra runner, an adventurer with an impressive 17 ultras, including Marathon Disables, the Amazon Jungle Ultra, the First for Rangers Ultra in Kenya, and many, many more. I hope we can unpack some of these in this episode today. And also, a little housekeeping here for the podcast. Friends of the pod, feel free to chime in with comments and questions during the chat. We'll get to those throughout the podcast for Simon. Also, if you're digging the pod, please do me a huge solid. Like, subscribe, rate, share, review the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network and all these amazing podcasts. There's 7 podcasts on this network, and we can't do this without friends of the pod, family of the pod, without your shares, likes, all that. We can't build this community without you, and we're ever growing. Like I said, we can do that with your support. So without further ado, let's bring Simon up and let's have a chat with Simon.
Hey Joe, how you going? Okay.
What's up, Simon?
Hey. Yeah, all good. Thank you. All good.
So I guess I'll preface this. We tried to have you on for episode 10, right? And we had some technical problems. I mean, we're talking from a long way. It's cool to have some friends from across the pond on the podcast. I'm super stoked. Like I said, that gave me even more time to read some stories and some stuff you've done. So if anything, I think it's kind of a cool silver lining that we had the problems we had, and we got you back on. So yeah, man, I'm just super stoked. And I just I like to do this all, I guess. I kind of just want to, let's go into the deep end of the pool and just tell me, who is Simon Hollis? I know that's a big question, right? But
gosh, yeah, that's deep. I tell you, I thought we were coming short running, but now who am I? Well, gosh, I'm a guy from Northamptonshire in England. It's where I grew up, and I spent some time in the military, which kind of shapes who you are, really. And then a lot of time after that, just doing all sorts of kind of office jobs and some academic stuff and all the rest of it. And then eventually, probably I think about 8 years ago, took on Go Beyond Challenge, and I've been lucky. I've managed to do some running all over the world, and I have my business, which I love. My wife keeps asking me the question, like, when are you going to make some money? But hey, let's not rush at things. Yeah, 8 years is we're getting warmed up.
You'll eventually get in the plus. That's how I always say about building a business. I'm like, maybe eventually one of these days I'll actually have a net gain here. But hey, when you're chasing a passion, right? It's that's what it's all about.
Yeah,
anyways.
And I think one thing that the business gives for me is that the opportunity to shape things, that I can make sure that what we're doing is getting as many people involved in running as we can. And also, I'm very lucky that I get to meet some incredible athletes from all over the world, and it does make me smile sometimes that I've got my little office in a town called Wellingborough, not far from home, and it's in the old server cupboard. So it's a small office, and yet we're attracting runners globally, which is super cool.
Yeah, it's rad. It's like I always say, small business, big heart. So you're building like this big community. I think that's so cool. Like, is that your favorite part about this? It's like, not actually the act of running, but like you're like building like this really cool network, like really cool community. That's got to be probably the most rewarding aspect of doing all this, right?
Yeah, I think actually it's just meeting these people, and some of them are super athletes, but so humble. I think there's only one person that I know, which I won't mention who it is, who will talk about incessantly about how good they are and all the rest of it. But everybody else, they're just like, wow, he came out for a run and hey, look at this. I mean, a very, very quick, I have a lot of stories, but we do an event called Country's Capital. So it's a kind of ultra marathon season opener in the UK. Takes place early January. And one year, about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this guy called Luke broke the course record. So it's 43 miles. So it's a good stretch. And he ran it in 4 hours 56. So sub 5 hour. That year we had 2 sub 5 hours, and I think 456, 459, and 503 was the podium. And he rang me up because he'd lost his race t-shirt. And I said to him, man, that was just like one incredible performance. What was going on? And he said to me, he says, gosh, I mean, I was really surprised. He said, I just came for a run out. And I'm like, how does that even work? How do you run 43 miles, sub 5 hours, which is a pretty decent marathon time for anybody.
Yeah.
But he's like knocking that out. So, yeah.
That's incredible. I couldn't even imagine. That's blistering. I couldn't even imagine running that fast. Yeah, I always run into that too. It's like, seems like the more and more you get into this community, you realize like these really phenomenal runners are like, they're always the most humble people. And they're usually the first ones to help you too with questions, like, any kind of advice. I think that's what's so unique about this community. There's like these really legit runners, and they're always the most humble and helpful people. I think that's what I love about this community so much. But we
as an organization, we're very much. I mean, people call me, and I call them, and they send me an email asking a question. I call them. I go, I didn't think you'd call. So why not? Want to talk about running? Then it's sort of that'll be a good part of the day for sure.
Yeah. So speaking about running, let's obviously I'm very curious. So what got you into running to begin with? I mean, I know you're a race director and like a really accomplished ultra runner, but let's back up and like give us a bit about your running story, your journey, like how that all kind of started for you.
Yeah. Okay. So as a teenager, I was kind of very overweight, and I think I sort of got to that kind of 14-year-old thing where you sort of elongate, and all the weight that you're carrying stretches out into your body. So, but then at the age of 16 in England, you got to decide what you want to do, and do you want to go to college, university, or whatever. And I really didn't know, so I decided that I would join the army. So I did 6 years as an infantry soldier, and that the physicality of that is tremendous. I mean, sometimes you're carrying kit so heavy you can't put it on your own back, So that was a real kind of thing with fitness and stuff like that. And so when I left the service, I had a few kind of niggles and stuff which kind of stopped me from running. And then I decided actually that I should get back into it. And it sort of started from there, really, just doing, 5K, 10K, and then, do half marathon and blah, blah, blah. And then I got and do a bit of adventure racing and a lot of obstacle course stuff. So I did Tough Guy, which was the precursor to all of this stuff now. You guys, I guess, will be familiar with things like Tough Mudder and stuff. Well, Tough Guy was the original idea. Oh. And so I did all that sort of thing. And then going back to 2011, and I got this email come through just before Christmas time, and it said, "What's your challenge for 2012?" I thought, I don't seem to have one. So I kind of thought, well, I ought to have one. So it said, how about running from London to Brighton, 100 kilometers?
100 kilometers.
So just in my mind, I just thought, okay, then, yeah, sounds like a good idea. Why not? So I said to my wife, I said, I'm going to run from London to Brighton. She went, oh, God. Okay, if you have to. And so I did. And I think it was 16 hours. But I really love the day because it's kind of navigating, not navigating. So you have like a map book thing they do, lots of sketches, and you're kind of working your way through the pages. And I met some really, really good fun people and really enjoyed it. So that was my first ever ultra marathon. I think the furthest I ran before that, I think was maybe like 14 miles or something.
Oh, wow.
I just had,
Nice.
I guess it's a funny sort of thing because whereas a lot of people, and I do this in my life, a lot of overthinking, but when it comes to like physical stuff, I kind of think, oh, I guess other people do it, so it must be okay. So that's the kind of mentality. Just going to have a crack and just see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. So, with ultra running, sometimes the best thing is just like you said, it's like don't overthink it, just full send, just go for it. That's a heck of a jump too. Like you said, it was like like you had to do like orienteering and stuff too for that race. Like you had to like find your own.
It's what they do, they give you this big map book, and there's lots of sketches and lots of notes and that type of stuff. So cool. It's kind of more fun than anything to follow because it kind of keeps your mind off of stuff, and each page you turn means obviously you're getting closer to the end of the book.
I think that's so cool. Like I watched that movie King Arthur like a month ago, and like so now I've been like really diving into like adventure races, like because like I can barely get across town without GPS, so I think it'd be kind of cool to like force myself to take on something like that, and like basically force myself to get good at like navigating and orienteering. That's cool. Do you still do stuff like obviously you still do stuff like that, but
we sort of we invested a bit in I don't know if you're familiar with Ride with GPS as a program.
No.
Okay, no. So it's an electronic program that you draw routes on. And
yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. We have the organizer package, and the cool thing about that is that you can trace the route, and it gives you voice cues like a sat nav. So I'll spend quite a lot of time on the ground. And you can program it yourself. So you can leave like funny messages on it and stuff. So if there's a big hill, I would go, it would go, gosh, guys, this is a big hill. and then it was at the top, well done, you've done it. So you can leave funny stuff like. So I spend a bit of time. I like to test everything that I do. I ride every route that we do. Probably a month before each race, just so I've got like sort of my brain totally sort of clued up on exactly all the ins and outs of the route and stuff. So yeah, Ride with GPS is quite good fun, and it's quite a nice kind of thing as well, just to check out the navigational cues and stuff.
I'll have to see if I can do that to because I can like upload GPX files to like my watch. But I'll have to see if I can add the little funny voice memos too. That sounds really fun, especially if you are participating. Like you're getting like a cool little message throughout the.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think in terms of like leaving messages for yourself. So when I've done like multi-day ultra stuff, I write myself messages in my food packs. So I get to say like the middle of if it's a 5-day ultra or something. I get to the middle of the week, and as I open my food for Wednesday, it'd say like, well done, you're doing great. You're kind of halfway through.
Oh man, I love that.
And the day before, I leave myself a message saying, look, do you know what? Actually, one more day to go. You've got this. So yeah, it's kind of like a funny thing, really, like leaving a message for yourself.
Oh yeah, I actually like doing that. I would like to do that. I'll have to try that because you know how it is about Wednesday or Thursday. You kind of hit that slump throughout the week. It'd be cool to have like a nice little note to yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you touched on a few races, and I did it kind of in the intro, and I've got a lot of questions about these because I've never participated in these things, and I would love to travel more and do some stuff like this. But so I have like a ton of questions about some of these events you've done. First Marathon Disables, it's a 7-day, right? It's 160 miles.
I think about 165 miles. Okay. So it lasts for 7 days, but you do get a day off. So
you do get a day off. If you would maybe explain to us like how that went for you. How did you find it, and how that whole journey went for you?
Yeah, so it's always a funny one to train for because it's always good because there's lots of guys that have done it, and normally if you sort of ask around, you can normally hook up with somebody that's done it, and they have their opinions on what you should and shouldn't do and stuff like that. And I think one of the hardest things with Marathon des Sables is just trying to choose your kit and all the rest of it, because I remember one night being on the computer all night and my wife came in and said, "What the hell have you been doing?" I said, "I've been ordering socks." She said, "But you've been on there all night." I said, "Yeah, I know." Because I choose a pair and go, right, these are the socks I'm going to wear, like 100%. And then I'd read the next thing. Somebody said, "Oh, I don't wear them." I go, "Oh, shit, all right, okay, well, I'm not having them. I'm having these ones." And then you read another thing saying, I nearly lost my foot or something because I wore them short. I thought, "Oh God, no, I can't have them." So you just never know what to get. But one of the challenges about the event is that you train all through the winter in England for an event in the Sahara Desert, like boiling hot. So it'd be dark, it'd be raining, and cold. And my wife said, "Where are you going?" "We're going out for a run." And so I'd have my backpack on, all fully kitted out, loads of clothes on, head torch, and all the rest of it, and go running. And that would be your preparation for a trip to the Sahara Desert. So yeah, it's a kind of, but you get used to running with your pack and all the rest of it. But it's an incredible event, and I think that you sort of it's almost like being part of some sort of special club when you've done it. But so yeah, you're sort of doing a marathon a day really for probably the first 3 days. And then you do your long day, which for us back in 2015 was 56 miles. So I finished that at 4 a.m. So you're running in the dark and all the rest of it. And then the next day you get a day off. Then the day after you run a full marathon. And then the day after that you do 10K to the finish. But it was an incredible experience because you get popped in a tent. You're sorted by nationality. And the camp is loads of concentric circles, and you get popped in a tent. So in the tent were 7 other people, and you look after each other. And I think this is one of the things I think with multi-day ultra running that people say, like, what is the thing? What excites you? What makes you buzz about it? And I tell you what, the truth of it is, one of the things is taking care of people, taking care of other people, because that's quite a difficult thing to do these days. If you see someone by the side of the road, what do? You drive by, because not because you're a bad person, it's because you wonder, are they genuinely hurt? If I pull over, is someone going to hit me on the head with a stick and run off my car or whatever? There's all these thoughts in your mind. So actually, when you're in an event like that, the first runabout would roll back the carpet and get rid of all the stones and stuff like that, and you sort of help people off with their kit and check on them and all the rest of it. So and I enjoy the logistics of it as well, because you have to pare down your pack to be as compliant to the rules, but also to be light enough to be comfortable to run with. So, but yeah, it's I met some great people, and it's a really interesting place because you realise how small you are as a person. You're like a grain of sand in that environment, and it plays with your mind sometimes as well. Because I was running with this girl, I met her, I think, on the wrong day, and she was crying, and I said, "What's up?" And she said, "My head torch has failed. We've got to go on." I said, "Look, well, just hang out with me." So we ran together, and we were in the middle of the desert. It's the middle of the night, and she said to me, "I can hear music." I said, "What?" She said, No, I can hear music. I said, "Yeah, really?" And so we came round this bit, and there was a string quartet playing in the middle of the desert. Yeah,
that's so cool.
So we kind of this was the time when Patrick Bauer owned it, and he used to kind of mess with your head. And then there was a couple of other bits where we got to the checkpoint, and she said, "Oh, thank God for that." I said, "What?" I said, "This is the last checkpoint." I said, "No." So there's one more. And then she burst into tears. I was, oh my God. And then the last bit, when the night they used to shine this huge beacon up into the sky. And the problem was with it is the desert is, there's nothing there. So you would see it from like miles away. And it just seemed forever to get there. But yeah, it was a tough thing. We finally 4 a.m. got into camp and grabbed a bit of sleep kind of thing.
Oh wow. So when you break camp for the day, you're unsupported the whole day basically. So you have to
just with water. So basically,
okay.
you get a water ration every day, quite a lot of water to be fair, and then you would just basically go to each checkpoint and get some more water, and just keep on going really to the end of the day.
Oh wow! I've always kind of just like watched these adventure races, like not adventure races, like the multi-day stuff. I really want to do one someday. So I'm just absolutely like captivated by these events because like you said, like you said something earlier that really struck me. It's like I love kind of being somewhere like big, like you realize how like insignificant you kind of are when you're in like such a big space like that. And I don't know, like I guess that to me is like humbling and like comforting in some weird way. So I think it'd be right up my alley to try something like that. So I think I just need to kind of get the stones to do it and sign up.
Joe, you got to come to Nepal with us. That's what you got to do. You heard all about it. You got to come.
Yeah, I would love to. I'd love to travel more. If anything, ultra has given me like this really overwhelming. Yeah, yeah, definitely do it. Says ultra, yeah.
But I think some of it as well though, because like I love to read about and listen to people that do adventures and stuff like that. So I as a child I read about sort of Stanley and Livingstone and how they met in the jungle. And there's a brilliant book actually which I would highly recommend, Wilfred Thesiger, The Life of My Choice.
Ooh, okay.
And this guy spends a lot of time with the tribes and stuff, and spends time in like the Empty Quarter and a different kind of time really. He was like in the SAS when it was first kind of founded and stuff. But yeah, and he never marries, and he just the book is kind of saying, well, look, this was my life that I chose. But it was an incredible time, and you kind of read about stuff like that, you're thinking, wow, And I was lucky to so when I did Marathon des Sables at the same year as Sir Ranulph Fiennes, the great British explorer, and I met him in Gatwick. And
I think we lost Simon a little bit there. Well, okay, we'll give Simon a second. He was on to something really good there. It's par for the course that we had trouble speaking to our friends overseas. So just bear with us. Okay, I think we lost Simon. Hopefully we'll get him back up. He was telling us some really good stuff there. He's done a lot of cool stuff too that we'll talk about in a lot of amazing places.
We're back.
Oh, hey, Simon. Okay, cool. And okay, I was like, it was just starting to get really, really good too. So yeah, keep going. You've captured me here.
So I was just saying really that so when I did Marathon des Sables, that we had the great British explorer, Sir Ranulph Fiennes, and if you want to read some like crazy stuff, this guy is nuts. And I actually saw him at he did a talk in a place in England near me, and you kind of think of someone like that. I'm thinking, gosh, I'm going to learn something from this guy because he's circumnavigated the world and all this sort of stuff. Wow. But he is the worst planet on the planet. So they chose some snow caps for one expedition, and they drove about 3 feet, and the thing sunk in the snow and never came back out again. And then he
Oh,
was telling
wow.
me about he was doing this thing, pulling a sledge, and they hadn't tested anything. So he gets on the sledge, and he can't pull it because it's too heavy. So they end up like chucking stuff out, and they throw out a lot of clothes. And later on, he says, "Oh, bloody hell, wish I hadn't have done that because it was like too cold." So yeah, funny. But I did. I met him actually at the end of Marathon des Sables, and he's got lots of fingers missing. He actually famously cut a bit of his own finger off because he had frostbite in the finger and it
Oh,
died. And he got fed up with it, so he went down to the garden shed and I think just saw the finger off. And
whoa.
yeah, so I shook his hand and I said to him, "Oh, well done, sir." And he shook my hand and said, "Like, well done, son." And it was like a really funny feeling because he's got all bits and stuff missing.
That is so hardcore. Oh man.
So yeah, so I think that whole kind of idea of kind of adventure, almost like in a kind of boyish kind of ways, has kind of driven me to to explore some of these things.
Yeah, I was always captivated by like Jack London, like adventure books as a kid. So it's always kind of been something that's always kind of captivated my attention, like all these like amazing adventures and stuff that people are doing. But I'm getting better at getting like out of my comfort zone, and ultra running's kind of giving me like this like really overpowering like wanderlust. So I'm ready to take on some really cool maybe more
Yeah,
challenging
sure.
things outside of my normal comfort zone. So you've done like a ton of cool races and events, but I want to make it a point, obviously, to talk about Go Beyond Challenge and give you a space to talk about that. I got some questions about that too. I really want to highlight that before we go too much further in like all these awesome events you've done. So just tell me a bit about Go Beyond Challenge, like just run down like what made you start it, like kind of where it's headed. You've got some cool events that you do. You just came off of an event too, right? Last week
Yes.
for
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
Beyond.
yeah. So
I
yeah,
guess
we
let's touch on that so we can give you time to talk about it. I want to know more about it, and then
yeah.
we'll
Okay.
unpack some more ultras too after that.
Yeah, sure. So, Go Beyond Challenge has been around since 2009, and so I took it on. So the guy that started it wanted sort of basically to retire. And the way the story goes, there's always a story with all these things. So it's October 2017, and I'm kind of just sitting on the bed reading a book, and the phone goes, and it's a friend of mine, and she's an accountant, and she says, "Oh, I've got this client who has got a sports event company and wants to sell up. He wants to kind of retire from it. Would you be interested?" And I was thinking, "Oh gosh, this is I don't know, because maybe I'm too old for this, and maybe this is too much of a dream or whatever." So I kind of said, "Oh, yeah, why not? We'll give it a go." So kind of that's how it happened, really. And so we sort of got a lot of goodwill with the business and a portfolio of events. So what we've done from there really is kind of refine the whole offering, so that one of the core parts of our business is to make sure that there's almost as much as we can something for everyone. So to give you an idea, we had when I took it over, there was an event called Shires and Spires, so based in the middle of Northamptonshire, which is very beautiful, and it was a 35-mile ultra marathon, and that was it. So now Shires and Spires is 5 different distances. So it's a 10K, it's a half marathon, it's a 3/4 marathon, it's a marathon, and it's an ultra marathon.
Oh,
And then
wow.
each year we go clockwise one year and anti-clockwise the next. So effectively, we've taken one event and made it into sort of 10 things.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's kind of how we've developed the business. And so yeah, it's kind of really important for us that everybody is welcome when it comes to running. And that's kind of really, really important. And it is quite funny because often we have one lady that comes, Justine, and she's brilliant. She's always last, but she's brilliant, and we don't care because
I'm always
you
lost.
don't need but you don't need a back marker. But you know that she's happy, and she come across the line, big smile on her face, and she's put some effort in, and she's had a really, really good day. So yeah, and we've got 4 UK ultra marathons. Country's Capital, which I mentioned as a season opener. One that I created, which is called Rose of the Shires. It's a 54-mile loop around Northamptonshire. So
cool.
incredibly beautiful place. Shires of Spires, which I just mentioned, which is 35 miles. And then we finished our season in October with Thames Trail. So a section of the Thames from Oxford to Henley-on-Thames. And we also have a Grand Slam competition. So you get a Go Beyond Grand Slam hoodie if you manage to complete all 4 of them. And also what you do get, which is a memorial shield. Sadly, for a friend of mine who took his own life, he was a very good ultra runner, and we did some stuff together, and he decided that he couldn't go on with life, so which is really sad. And so but I like to kind of do stuff that we can remember people. So we have the Simon Small Memorial Shield, and you get that for the fastest combined time. So yeah, it's cool.
All right, and you just had what? And that was Northampton was what earlier this week, right?
Yeah. So on Sunday we had the Amazing Northampton Run, which was which was the biggest one yet. A huge piece of work. It's I guess when you're organising ultra marathons, there's a kind of steadiness to the pace of what goes on, because like I said, like if it's Country's Capital, we get to the start, which is in a pub actually in the middle of winter, which is really quite nice. And they leave the pub at 8:45, and the first person will get in at say like 2:00 in the afternoon or something. So you got loads of time. But when it comes to doing something like the Amazing Northampton Run, they set off, and within a short pace of time, because that race comprises of 3 different distances. So one of them is 3 miles. So you set them off at 9:45, and by 10 o'clock the first person's back, and then by about 10:15, they're all rolling through, and then a little while later you got your first half marathon people, and they keep coming at you until 12:30. So you sort of get no time, and actually you're preparing a 13.1 mile course, which a lot of road closures, loads and loads of different environments and stuff like that. And it is that thing when you say go and you're thinking, wow, let's hope it's all okay, really.
I really appreciate what you're doing with all those different distances. It's like, how the trend is like bigger, longer. Like, I think it's so cool when, even though you do organize ultras, you have like a lot of sub ultra distance stuff, which I think that's my understanding, and I think that's cool. Like, it kind of, like you said, you're kind of letting everybody step up to the finish line regardless of like distance, and so I really like that. And it kind of like seems like the trend is going big, and I still appreciate when people are bringing like
I think ultra marathon running is as a sort of genre of sport quite a dangerous thing in some respects, because there is almost this thing where too much is never enough. And I think one of the things that I sort of discovered like a while ago was like the question of what is it about? Is it about self-torture, which it did come to a point with me about, it was like almost punishing yourself for whatever you were angry at yourself for, and there's a real danger there. And I always say to people, look, you've got to be doing these things because you want to enjoy the challenge and the fun. And if it's not that, then it's kind of like you're missing the point. But I do think you're right, Joan, in so much as we have to be sensible as much as you can be, and to be pushing the envelope constantly. It can be a very dangerous place. There used to be, if you did 100 miler, then you were a cool guy. Now, what, you haven't done a 200 miler, you haven't run for X amount of days without sleep or whatever, then you're not the big man anymore. Do you know what I mean? So I think it is. I think it just needs to be sort of delivered sensibly, really.
Yeah, that resonates with me a lot. I'm pushing bigger distances. I've got a 100-miler coming up, and I've like toyed with the idea of bigger distance, but like your point, it's like I'm always gonna have to do like an inventory of like, is this actually right? So I really that struck what you said. You kind of have to, I guess you really have to understand your why. Is like, are you punishing yourself, or like, is this something you really want to do? So yeah, that really guess that struck a chord with you, Simon. That's a really good perspective, actually.
Yeah, and I think when you say, Joe, about discover your why, I think that really is important, and I think it's actually it's a really cool question generally for things. And I've been asked that about the business before, and said, what's your why? And you think, okay, and that kind of like once you understand that kind of shapes what you do. And like you say, if that's a question about your running or your event organizing or your life anyway, that's kind of, I think it's a really cool question.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of that, what is your why for Go Beyond and race directing and having all these events? So if you could enlighten us on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think my is what's your why and what's your wife, I think is the other question.
Yeah.
And so she's always on saying, look, you're getting too old for this kind of thing, which I'm not, by the way. And so
yeah, never too old.
It's a tough business. I think people have got a lot of opinions these days about what they think is good and what isn't good.
Yeah.
And a lot of them without particular substance. So I think as an event organizer, it's tough, and people don't understand what goes into putting an event together. And when they do, even though they might do something really small, then they start to look at you in a different light, thinking, I kind of get what's going on here. But for us, our why is definitely wanting just to create something better for people. I think the fact that we know about a lot of the things that do with physical activity in terms of obviously health and well-being, physically, mentally, but also for us, we talk about the volunteer pool and saying, well, look, actually, you could be part of something. And I think that's kind of what we're missing really in life today. We've become very insular people where we don't know our neighbors, and some of us, you probably, as you get older, have less and less friendship groups and stuff like that. So I kind of think that's really important to be part of something. And also in terms of particularly say like with Northampton, the impact that we can have on the local economy, the visitor economy, the revisit of people to the town. So I kind of think it's, for me, the why is like, well, actually is building this proper big thing. And ultimately, of course, we'll have to stop sometime. So it's about building a business that has a really, really good portfolio and a good outlook on stuff. And the hope is that someone, one day will come along and snap it up, but also continue to do good stuff, which is really important.
Yeah, I love that. I can tell that you really, you've got your heart in what you're doing too. And you said something that really I've been thinking about a lot lately with like why I run ultras, or not just ultras, why I do trail running, why I'm so involved in running is, like you said, it's like a community. We're so like disconnect. It's like we're more in touch with people we've ever been, but we're more disconnected than we've ever been with like your neighbors or whatever. So I like what you said about kind of building a community, and like I agree. So I volunteer a lot at trail races, and I've kind of just got like a glimpse of what race directing is about. It is a ton of work. So you have to, I'm assuming you have to just really, really love what you're doing. Like if you didn't have your heart in it, you probably couldn't, do it to begin with. So I certainly appreciate
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
think you're right, because actually the worst thing I find, particularly in the UK, is the amount of people that will stop you from doing what you want to do. The amount of paperwork and people just, you want to run through here, you got to pay me to run through here. And you're like, well, just want to run down your trail. But no, they've got the handout for money. And it's a very, like I say, something like the half marathon is kind of, I haven't had a day off for a few weeks now because it's been non-stop, and it still continues, because even though the race is finished, there's still lots of post-race stuff to do. But it's an incredibly complicated and time-consuming thing to do. And so, you've got to love it, because I think, and also for us, we're constantly looking, going, well, if you get in the way, we've got to find a way around it. It's like, and that's the challenge. And people say, well, what are you going to do now? I said, don't know, but we'll work it out.
Yeah, it's just like ultras, right? You gotta always be problem solving. If something comes up, you got to figure a workaround. Cool. Man, I have a lot of race director questions, but I don't want to consume all of the podcast. But I'm curious about race directing. So you're just like your body of work with what you're doing with all your events really it struck me. So I guess I want to ask about maybe if you have any further ultras you're planning, or any races you've got coming up that you're talking about doing with Go Beyond Challenge, if you can share any of that with us too. And maybe tell us where you can, like, where everybody can find your social media for Go Beyond Challenge, and then we'll get back to some ultra questions.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, really, if you just have a look on Facebook for Go Beyond Challenge, Instagram for @GoBeyondSport. So that's the kind of they're the kind of core things. And in terms, we're always like checking out ideas and different things. So we do this event in January, at the end of January, and it was called the Dirt Run, and it was a 3-distance race in a country park, 5, 10, and 15K. So we've got plans for next year to take it on tour. So it's a bit long in the tooth. So we're going to do a second race in February, which we're going to split up to 7.5 and 15K. There's something a little bit different, and it's going to be on a trail called the Libnam Way. And the great thing about that is there's an organisation called the National Trust that looks after a lot of our old property and history and heritage and stuff. And there's a building, and it's not a ruin. It's unfinished
Cool.
Since about 1600 and something. So kind of like when you're short on a DIY project at home, think about that one. You're okay. And so this thing is an Elizabethan manor house. So I'm really quite excited about it, because we run near it. We've got permission to do that.
Cool.
So on this trail race in February, and you kind of hope for a bit of mist and stuff like that, to see this mysterious kind of silhouette of an old house in the distance. So that'll be quite good fun. And we're always messing with different ideas and stuff. So that's one of the fun things, is kind of planning events and playing with routes and stuff like that. So for Northampton, we've done 2 years now of this race, and we still haven't got the route that we want yet, because of different development works and stuff like that. So again, it's about what we're looking at, what we do for next year in terms of routing. And then really we're looking, because as we grow the event, we will grow out of certain parts of the route. So it's kind of interesting then to start to think about contingencies for the future, about what we'll do with it in order to maintain the basics of the route, but how will we accommodate more people? So yeah, that kind of stuff is quite good fun. And yeah, we're always talking to different people about different ideas.
Oh, cool! You're gonna make me want to get on an airplane and head over there for that one. That sounds so cool. I like the picture you just painted. So, if I don't get to go, hopefully there'll be like lots of cool pictures of that that trail or that run on socials.
Yeah. Well, we have a great guy called Adrian Howes, and Adrian's worked with us for all the time I've been there. We took him to Nepal with us last year, and when you do the Nepal race with us, what you get as part of the deal is you get a memory stick with, God no, I think maybe like 1,000 images on it. So the idea of that is that when you're running around Nepal, you got to focus. You got to be looking around and enjoying the incredible scenery and the incredible people and stuff like that. Not messing about with your phone trying to take pictures and all the rest of it. So Adrian comes with us and he captures some of the most incredible stuff. Oh, so yeah, cool. A lot of his stuff, he did a great job on Sunday. Him and a couple of his team, I think they produced over 1,000 images of the race. Oh, so wow. Yeah, I think it's an important thing, and actually, well, you can tell when I've taken the picture, and you can tell when Adrian's taken the picture. Let me tell you that much.
You have to know your strengths, right? When it comes to
yeah, absolutely, yeah. My snaps leave a bit to be desired.
Well, man, thank you for giving us like kind of like a peek behind the curtains on Go Beyond. Like I said, it was something I was really digging when I was checking it out on the Instagram page, so there is something I want to talk about, another ultra that you did because I got them pretty fired up, and it sounds really cool. The First Rangers Ultra, kind of run us through that. I kind of want to know a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so this was a funny one, really, because I'd done a load of stuff, and my wife, she sort of, she's like, right, this is it now, like, no more. I was like, okay, no more. And then it was a Friday afternoon, and my friend Dan rings me up, right? So me and Dan, we were in the jungle together. He was in the jungle, and he's going, mate. He said, what's up, Dan? Because he never rings, he's like kind of an aloof kind of guy. And he said, me and Dom, he says, we're doing this race. And he said, we want you to come. I said, cool. What is it? He said, look, you got to be quick. It's selling out. He said, we love running with you, so we want you to come. And I was like, mate, what is the race? And eventually I got him to say the words. He says, in Kenya. What? And so there was a guy called Sam Taylor, and he was in the there's a few South African guys with us in the jungle, and Sam and some of his pals worked on some of these wildlife game reserves in Kenya. And we were talking actually at that time about, they were saying, I want to put together a race, it'd be like awesome. And I was like, yeah, sounds really cool. So all of a sudden, out of the blue, this thing appears, and my friend Dan and Dom are on it. And so I phoned the guy up at the race company Beyond the Ultimate, and he's like, so he knows me, and he's like, Simon, he says it's true, this is going mental. And so, but he said, I'll hold you a place until Monday, but on Monday you got to give me a yes or no. So later on, my wife comes home, and I'm like, I got something I want to tell you. And she said, well, what? I said, I'd like to go to, do another big run. And she's like, yeah. Where's that then? I was like, Kenya. So we have this whole thing where she does this thing where she then launches at you and tells you that you're selfish and you don't care about your children, and you're wasting all this money, and we could have a nice holiday and all this kind of stuff. So this goes on for about an hour. And then eventually she says, for God's sake, let's bloody go. So I'm like, okay, cool. So next thing I find myself on the plane to Kenya. So And it's an incredible race. It's so funny because you're in the wildlife game reserve, and a lot of time on your own. So it wasn't a huge race and stuff, and you're running. There's all this long grass, and you're thinking, like, "Oh, what's in the grass?" And then these guys are like, then also, and someone will shout and look around, and you look up in the tree, and there'll be a ranger hidden in the tree with a high-powered rifle, and all in camouflage and stuff, who's watching you all the time. And you. So these guys, I mean, a lot of them lose their lives. It's a terrible business because they're literally giving up their life to protect nature, which is a huge thing, but a massive honor for them as well to be part of that. So the race supported them doing that, but it was just magical. One of the key moments I found was I was running up a hill. And I looked to my right-hand side, and there was a giraffe running with me.
Oh, wow.
Then I looked to my left-hand side, and there was another one. So there's the three of us, me and these two giraffes, running up the hill. It was just amazing. Yeah. And then that we had a situation where there was the worst thing I think there actually was buffalo, because these damn things, they weigh tons, and they have these thick horns that sort of come out the front. And so kind of, I think more so than probably the things that you would think about, sort of lions and tigers, they're really like, don't like people and just want to keep away from them kind of thing. And there was a buffalo on the course, and the ranger's like, wait there. And I was thinking, like, you don't need to tell me to wait there. Like, I think I'll just say that myself.
Understood.
And they had to chase, they chased the damn thing off with this pickup truck with a big bull bar on the front. But and things like giraffes are quite inquisitive, so they would join us in camps and stuff. And my friend Brian was originally from Kenya, a white African guy, and so he was pretty. We stayed with his dad before the race, and it was a pretty cool place, but massive with security. The guy had a pistol, and when you went to bed, there was this huge metal gate that went over the staircase to make sure. But if somebody did break in, that they wouldn't be able to get upstairs and get you, kind of thing. So Brian knew, growing up there, a lot of stuff. And one night I woke up and thought, I need a pee. And then you could hear this sort of, So I said, Brian, what's that? He said, that's the lions talking to themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, I don't really need to pee that badly.
Turns out I don't have to.
I think I'll wait. So it was like an incredible place. And the funniest bit actually was, I think it was the last reserve, and they got these armored buses, and all of the tourists are inside looking through their binoculars and the slits and stuff. And there's me running past, high-fiving them as we go by. And it was like, you could just see them looking, thinking like, what are you doing out there? Why are you running there with a backpack on and stuff? And, we're inside the armored bus.
Well, so is that like a multi-day thing as well?
Yeah. It's a 5-day race and stuff.
5 days?
Yeah,
wow.
so.
Cool. What kind of distance is that?
Probably about 150 miles, something like that.
Oh, wow.
Kind of thing. So, yeah.
That is wild. Yeah. I couldn't even imagine. I've watched way too many Planet Earth documentaries to run through Kenya, but that sounds really cool. Man, so I know you've done like a lot of things, but what do you think's like out of like you got 17 ultras under your belt, a bunch of multi-day stuff. So what do you think out of all those is probably like the coolest thing that you've done? Like out of all these events, I mean, you've done a lot. We would need multiple hours to talk about these. But, so what do you think was like the best event, the coolest thing? I know that's probably a hard question.
That's a really tough question. I'll tell you what was the hardest thing. Definitely was being in the Himalayas.
Okay.
Geez, absolutely brutal. So you're talking a race called the Great Himalayan Running Festival. So this guy I know, Vishwas Sadhu, runs it in northern India, in the Himachal Pradesh. And it's 5 marathons in 5 days. And it is something else. So on the final day, you across a place called Tanglang La, which is the second highest road pass in the world. And it's 17,500 feet. It's about 5,300 meters above sea level. And so
Holy
you are literally dying up there. And well, I literally nearly did die. Actually, I was almost run over by a truck. This guy missed me by about an inch, and I had to drop down into this gully to escape because they just drive these trucks like crazy. And yeah, so that was it was warm, then it was freezing cold, and then it was boiling hot, and this is all in one day. So it took me sort of weeks to get over that race. It was like, and there's a cool video actually. Yeah, it's called the High Fives, and there's a cool video online that we're being interviewed about and stuff. But it was an amazing place because a lot of the people have so little, and you're staying in these things that one of them was called the Paradise Hotel. So the Paradise Hotel comprised 2 rooms. One room where you all sat together and they cooked and you ate, and the other rooms where everybody slept, all in one big room, just with this like bed thing around the outside and a big pile of old blankets and stuff. And you had to sleep propped up against the wall because the air is so thin, you can't sort of lie down because your lungs just can't kind of work hard enough, really.
Oh, wow. Man, that sounds super rad. Cool. Well, dang, these aren't ever long enough. But thank you so much, Simon, for sharing all that with us. But I was hoping to get real quick, something I want to try out new. I want to try this out with you. Is that having my guests say leave one piece of advice if you wanted to share that with the listeners.
Okay, so one piece of advice from me is if you see something you want, just go and do it. Don't wait. What's the point? I spoke to a lady today about our Nepal adventure. She signed up and now she's questioning, is that something she should do? And I said to her, are you worth it? And that's the question. But literally, guys, if you see a race, don't matter how crazy it is, how far away it is, to a point how much money it is, but like, hey, don't go mad. But just get yourself out there and do it because that's life, and sadly we've seen a lot of people that haven't had a full life, for some like awful illnesses or through some kind of poor kind of mental trauma and stuff. And you got to think to yourself, that's what you got to do. You got to be out there and do some crazy stuff.
I love that. Yeah, that seems to be a common theme. It's just just go, just sign up for the thing, do the thing. So, yeah, thank you so much. You got me excited about maybe signing up for some stuff. Well, Simon, thank you so much for your time twice. We tried this before, so I'm really honored that you took time out of your life again to be on my podcast. So that means a lot to me. It's been really fun chatting with you today, getting to know you kind of behind the scenes while I was kind of digging into some of the stuff you've done. So just keep doing what you're doing. I think it's really, really cool what you and Go Beyond are doing, all these cool adventures you're doing. So yeah, just thank you so much for this time. And maybe I'll have to have you back on because I still have a lot of questions unanswered on this list. So
yeah. Well, I can't believe like an hour has gone by is ridiculous.
Yeah, and I was like, dang, I didn't get through half the stuff that I really wanted to ask you. So that means a part 2 for sure, Simon.
Yeah, cool, mate. Yeah, but so look, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Yeah, thank you.
And a real honor.
I appreciate it so much. And so we're going to wrap up today's episode. Huge thank you to Simon for sharing a story with us about Go Beyond. He's done a lot of stuff. We only got to go into a few of those things. So like I said, part 2. So I just want to say thank you for chiming in or for tuning in, listening to me and Simon talk today. And I always like to take a moment to remind everybody, please rate, share, subscribe, review the podcast. It really helps us reach more listeners like you and the Everyday Athlete Podcast Network. We're building a great community, like I said, and And we can't wait to share this episode on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast here in the future. And thank you so much. On Sunday, this will come out Sunday on Apple, Spotify. So, tune in. And thank you.